Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week, another episode of Brothers on the Green. Got PJ Tour Pro Dice. We got myself. Uh, Average week of golf last week. Byron Nelson. I mean, not average by Scotty Scheffler, wire to wire winner. I mean, it was pretty much over after he shot 7 under on his front nine on Thursday, and he just kept that momentum going. We saw some good golf from Spieth, which is always nice to see, right? Getting some momentum, playing consecutive good rounds, right, without any major mistakes.
Yeah.
Those were two big names at the top of the leaderboard. Dice, anything you wanted to chat about from last week?
I mean, not much. It was really just a Scotty Cup after, like you said, after the opening nine, he went 7 under and then finished off 10 under. And I mean, Strelly just played phenomenal every single day. Van Rooyen tried to, scare him, I guess, a little bit, but Scotty was simply just playing too well. And like you said, I guess it is good for Spieth, getting into form a bit more. It seems like he's been playing honestly very well since he's came back from his injury, pretty consistent in terms of like his results, top 20. So he's trending pretty well heading into the PGA Championship. And obviously, Scotty got his win back. Rory's been hot all year. You see Bryson hot on live. So it seems like all those stars are, getting hot for the second major of the year.
Yeah, that is nice, right? You got Scotty playing Scotty golf again. You got JT coming off a win. You got Bryson, right? Xander starting to round into form. So a lot of the stars of the game playing good golf, which is always fun heading into a major week. So that's definitely, what we're looking forward to. It is an elevated event this week, right? The Truist. It's cool to see a course that they have not played in a long, long time ever, right? I don't think they've ever played Philly Cricket Club actually.
Yeah.
Um, so that's cool to see, right? I mean, Philadelphia Cricket Club has a lot of history. It's
Yeah.
one of the gems in the Northeast, right? It's a classic, private, beautiful Northeast golf course, right? A lot of people you were saying it reminds them of Baltusrol.
Yeah.
Believe it has the same designer, right? The greens are similar, big greens with subtle tiers all over them.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful golf course. It's great that it gets its moment, right, to really showcase itself. And
Yeah.
hopefully, right, it comes back here in the future whenever Quail Hollow is hosting the PGA because there's nothing better than Northeast golf, right? It just in terms of the golf courses, but also the condition of the golf courses, right? It does not get better than places like this. So overall, right, it seems like it should be pretty low scores if I had to guess, just because it is a shorter course. It's going to be wet, right? It's
Yeah.
been raining most of the week up here. It also looks like potential rain on Friday.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see some lower scores coming out of this event. Just because these guys are so good. You give them wedges in their hand,
Yeah.
hole in, hole out, on pretty receptive greens, right? They'll be able to find most of the pins, even if they are tucked.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it seems like the main, defense for this course is those very slopey greens that they have. But like you said, I mean, the course, just to go over it, it's seven par fours ranging from 420 to 450, and then you have two par fours under 375. And I mean, when you have half the holes under 450, putting a wedge in these guys' hands that often, and like you said, some rain making it a bit softer of a course, it's just hard to imagine them not getting to probably like that 16 or, maybe a bit lower range just with the, how many scoring opportunities that they will have. But at the same time, it's a newer course. None of them really have that edge of knowing it too well compared to others. So it could provide some difficulties simply based off the fact that it's a newer one. But just based off of, like how the course is and what it's presenting to them, it could be a pretty, lower score week compared to, some of those other tests.
Yeah, and like we've heard on some other podcasts, it is going to, even though it is short,
Yeah.
it's good to be able to carry your driver right far. It kind of takes all those fairway bunkers out of play, and the
Exactly.
rough, it doesn't seem too thick or too long this week. So you got wedges coming out of the rough, kind of helps you control the spin, in certain
That's off.
conditions.
Yep, exactly.
So there's going to be a lot of different factors, but also at the same time, you get a short hitter that's driving the ball well. There's no reason why they can't compete, right? Like a Brian Harmon, a Russell Henley, right?
Yeah.
Guys of that nature, where if they got their driver on a string,
Yeah.
they're still going to have mid to low irons into a lot of these greens, and again, they can control their golf ball with the best of them. So
Exactly. It
I
does.
think oh, you go, Dice.
For the shorter hitters, it does seem in terms of this off the tee, you'll probably have to shape it a bit more, with those bunkers being in the landing zones, just to obviously make sure you're not trickling in or whatever it might be. I saw a stat, or not a stat, but a number that there are 118 bunkers this week, and I mean that's the most you'll see on tour. And it seems like, they're actually, like we were just saying, in places where it's going to come into play directly, whether that be on approach, on off the tee, whatever it might be. So it is a bit of an advantage for those longer hitters, but as long as you have control of your golf ball, regardless, you'll still be able to obviously get yourself in position to have a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, and just going through the course, right? It seems like a lot of the holes, the fairway bunkers are really just on one side of the fairway.
Yeah.
Right, so you can favor obviously the other side of the fairway and keep
Mhm.
yourself out of trouble as those shorter guys. There's really only one hole I've seen. There's the second hole here where there's, two fairway bunkers. A lot of them is literally just one fairway bunker on one side of the hole, right? A couple
Yeah.
of them have two fairway bunkers, one on each side. So, a lot of these fairway or bunkers are around the green,
Mhm.
right? And for these guys, as long as the ball isn't plugging, they'll probably prefer to be in those bunkers
Yeah, for
to
sure.
control that spin. So, and that's why I say I could see the scores being pretty low because it's really not much trouble off the tee. There's not a lot of trees, right? It's another one of those courses that had a restoration. They took out a lot of the trees.
Yep.
So I'm sure most guys are just gripping and ripping at the driver, and it'll be a bit of a birdie fest if I had to guess.
Yeah, and I would say definitely so on the front nine because if you look at the front nine, let's see, I had it written down. So five par fours in the first seven holes. Longest one is 447. You got one par three in there that's around like a buck 70. So I mean, probably like a eight iron and the 8-7 iron of the hands, depending on the player. And then it seems like it does start to get harder once you get the hole eight with the 240-yard par three, and then you got those three par fours that are also like 490 plus as well. So there are going to be some tests involved, of course, some longer holes on the backside, but at least those first seven holes, it seems like it's going to be all attack for these guys.
Yeah, the first seven holes look like a birdie holes, and then 12 through 15, right? 12's 420,
Yep.
13's 420, and then 14's 120 par three. A nice, looks like a cool little short par three, and
Yep.
then 15 being that par five, right about 550. So, again, we'll see what happens. I think it really is open to a lot of different players to at least get into contention, right? And give yourself a chance. But it never hurts, right? Or it's always ideal to be a good iron player, right? In events like
Totally.
this, when if you're getting yourself inside 15 feet consistently, right, just giving yourself chances,
Yeah.
that's the key to the game.
Yeah, getting onto that right level or just getting yourself on the right side of the hole with all the slope around, I'm sure like that extra bit of precision, putting yourself in the right spot and having those, 15, 20 footers consistently, obviously going to give you a little bit of a leg up.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, so you want to go through the board this week and
Yeah.
see talk about some guys, whether or not we're taking them. Let's talk through some names.
Yeah. All right. So top of the board, we have so no Scotty this week as well. So obviously it's a bit impacted by that with some of these guys being a bit lower than normal. But Rory, you have plus 400. Then you got Collin all the way at 14 to 1. Xander 16 to 1. JT 16 to 1. Ludvig 16 to 1. And then you got the start of the 20s. You got Cantlay 20 to 1. Spieth 25 to 1. Hovland 25 to 1 and Fleetwood 28 to 1 to finish up the 20s.
Yeah, so I mean, it's this golf course, as most golf courses are, seems like it's just perfect for Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, I mean,
He's gonna none of those bunkers are in play for him, right on any hole.
and it seems like the fairway's wide, and once you get past those bunkers, rather than having to shape it in between, if you can carry it, it just gives you like an extra, 15, 20 yards of
Yeah,
place to land it.
yeah, no, absolutely. So Rory, again, he's only 4 to 1, which odds, it's tough to really give him out or to bet on, but he's a guy that he's been playing unbelievable golf. I mean, tee to
Mhm.
green, on the greens, he's been much better, right? He's having at least a couple really good putting rounds a
It's
week.
short game too.
Oh, his short game is filthy. So,
Gross.
Rory's always a name to look after. Collin, right? He's one of those guys on the shorter side of the driving distance spectrum.
Yeah.
He's lost strokes putting in his last four events. He does have Joe Griner on the bag now, which
Yeah.
is interesting. Stolen from Homa. So, I don't know if Griner has that much magic in him to bring Morikawa to a win right away.
Yeah.
So I don't. You could always see Morikawa winning or competing, right? But I don't really love him being second on the odds board this week and playing that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather take one of the batch of Xander, JT, Ludvig, or Cantlay from 16 to 20 rather than Collin at 14.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. So Xander, right? He's a guy that I'm interested in this week. Starting to trend in the right direction, right? What was the stat you gave me? He finally
So,
gained
because
strokes
he's
around
been
the
so
green.
he like since he's come back, he's had his speed right away. Like he hasn't lost any distance. His irons have been dialed in, his wedges dialed in. But around the green and putting is where he's really struggled. And at least at the RBC Heritage, obviously, I'm not sure like how much it matches up with the course and everything like that. But at least like around the green, he did gain 3.2 around the green there. So it seems like hopefully getting his feel back a little bit. And if he can get the driver back, just accuracy wise a bit more, compared to last year, and his wedges are already what they are, it's just a matter of that feel coming back, which obviously is going to eventually.
Yep. JT, right, playing good golf.
Yep.
He does. He's played great on short courses right throughout the course of his career. So, usually the short courses means you're not hitting a lot of drivers here. You're probably going to still be hitting a lot of drivers,
Yeah.
which again, even if he's in the rough for a majority of the week, his iron game is so
Oh,
filthy and his
sure.
putting is getting better. So, you never
Putting's been
count
great
JT
this
out.
year. He's up to 12th on tour.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Oh, it's crazy.
And then Ludvig, right? Ludvig has been very hit or miss this year. When he first came out, he was not hit or miss. He was just Iron Man consistent week in, week out. He definitely has, seen a few more deficiencies in his game, let's say, right, on a weekly basis. It's not just
Consistency
pure
right.
throughout the bag.
Yeah.
So, I kind of like him more on a longer, tighter golf course because his driver is such a weapon.
Yeah.
But again, those are just these are the best players in the world we're talking about. So, they could pop up at any time and play good golf.
Exactly. Then you got Cantlay 20 to 1. And I mean, everywhere I look, I'm seeing Cantlay this week. Bent grass, Northeast. It seems like it's like some comparisons to the the BMW championships that he's won. I think one was
Yep.
in Wilmington or in Delaware last time he won. So like Northeast, pretty close by. And it just seems like bent grass is something that he's always succeeded on. It's like I don't know exactly how many, but most of his wins have come on bent grass as well. So I do like the play. I just think the number for how long it's been since he's won, it's a bit tough to take at 20 to 1, but at the same time, I know he's a popular play this week with a lot of guys.
Yeah, and it could be, since he does love bent grass, and that has a lot to do with the greens, right? It could be a week where he finds
It's
his
the putt
putting.
well. Exactly. He's been hitting it great. He's just completely forgotten how to putt.
Yeah, and especially in that like 3 to 5 foot range, he's really been struggling
Brutal.
consistently for a while. And he's gotten himself into contention in a few weeks, and then he misses a couple of those putts and he's gone
Done.
immediately.
Yep.
So those are a lot of the top guys, right? I could, Russell Henley. I was speaking about. He's a guy that is a very straight driver of the ball. He's got a win in the elevated event. He's got a couple other top tens in elevated events, right? So his game has been very consistent throughout the course of the year. Hideki, right, John? You want to talk about Hideki a
Yeah.
little bit?
Because I mean, I don't think he's played since the Masters, to be honest. I don't know if he's played RBC right after, and I know he hasn't played since the RBC, if so. But at least, looking at some of his numbers, he hasn't been able to putt, like, for most of the year at least. The one time he gained putting was when he won at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's been a struggle on the greens. But I mean, at Augusta, he gained like, I think it was like 7, 8 shots on approach overall. So he was striping it. He was just lost on the green. So that's, doesn't give me much hope, but at the same time, in a field like this, short field, 35 to 1, it is a solid number because, as we know, Hideki can pop at any point.
Yeah. No, Shane Lowry, right? He's a guy probably not going to pick pre-week, but it's a course that I fits him well, right? Shorter. The fairway bunkers are the only concern there, but again, you just favor the other side of the fairway, hammer at it. A
Yeah.
lot of times you'll be in a good spot, whether or not you hit the fairway. And his irons have been pretty dialed all year. His real problem has been the putting, right? Consistently making putts. He's giving himself opportunity after opportunity and
Yeah.
just can't get any real momentum on the greens, which for Lowry, that's where he needs to make up strokes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's been pretty much so consistent all year. It seems like the driver's gotten a bit better, a bit more under control as these events have gone on with how much he played. And it seemed like he played like 8 straight weeks at a certain point. But yeah, I just think if he could putt and it's consistent all 4 days, he could be up there. But he hasn't, shown that too much this year with the consistency on the greens.
Yep.
I know you love him. That's been your guy all year.
Yeah, it has been, and I felt great about him at the Arnold Palmer. He choked it.
Yeah.
I
He
felt
struggled on Sundays, a couple or Saturdays and Sundays, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one or the other. Yeah, one or the other.
It's like if he goes into the weekend on Saturday with the lead, he'll struggle. But if he's chasing, he's still like 4 or 5 back, he'll get himself in position come Sunday and then sort of just, whether it be plateau or go backwards, it's not usually going forward.
Yeah, he definitely went backwards at Augusta. He shot 81 on Sunday. All right, so then we got there's oh
Rocco 45 to 1, I think, is a solid number. I mean, he's been one of the best players in the world this year, and he still gets priced below guys like Sung Jae Im, Daniel Berger. I mean, Corey Connors, who's played. Corey Connors is playing great golf, and he overall is probably a better golfer at the end of the day. But Sepp's been a elite iron player, an elite putter, very accurate off the tee. So I mean, 45 to 1, it just still seems high in a 70-man field.
yeah, no, I agree. Those are very good odds for him. And then a few guys I'll talk about when we go through our picks, right? We got Berger and Bradley this week. Berger's just been throughout the bag, extremely consistent all year.
Yeah.
And for him, guy with that much talent, it's really only a matter of time before he breaks through again. And I think he's really trying to get on that Ryder Cup team. So a win like this would be huge,
Yeah.
right? Keegan, same story, right? He started off the year well, hasn't been playing as well the last few weeks, but
Even his
still,
putting.
yeah, his putting has not been great.
Yeah. He's hitting it like numbers wise well. It's just I don't think he's putted. I think it's almost I was watching a couple of things. It seems like it's almost been like impressive how well he's finished in most of these simply due to like how poor his putting has been.
Yeah, the last 3 weeks I can see he lost over a stroke at the RBC. He lost 1.8 at the Valero. He gained at the Players and the Arnold Palmer, which I do like, right? Two very fast greens. So,
Yeah.
maybe he likes those faster greens, right?
Yeah.
You never know. He is a Northeast guy. So that will be talked about in a little bit as well. I was just looking through here. I can see Minwoo Lee playing well this week.
Yeah.
Open off the tee. He's been more consistent with his distance control with his irons, right? And he's got a great short game, right? Chipping especially, but also the putter has been pretty solid this year, it seems like.
No, yeah, he's his short game all around putting and chipping, like you said, has been elite.
Anyone else in that range you want to chat about?
Rosie, you got at 70 to 1. It seems like again, this is sort of a comparison to the Master to Augusta with the greens wise, just the slopes. Obviously, not quite to that level, but sort of goes with Ludvig as well as and then Rosie. They both obviously have played well at Augusta for a long time. Ludvig is 2 times. He's putted very well both times on those difficult greens, and obviously Rosie it seems like he gets up for big events, right? He's not going to be like contending in a week in, week out basis. But when it comes to these bigger events at obviously some elite venues, that's when I sort of like his name. Obviously, not a major per se, but elevated event. It seems like it could be a good fit, and the number honestly is pretty solid. I'm not sure, if I'll be on it myself, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Rosie contending in an event like this.
Yeah, and he's a guy that enjoys the cooler, windier weather, right? So we got Thursdays looks beautiful. Mid 60s in the morning, gets up to the mid 70s in the
What
afternoon.
times for both days, Thursday and Friday? They're doing front and back.
Yeah, I saw that. And then Friday, we got 8 mile an hour winds with up to 25 mile an hour gusts, right? Pretty consistent throughout the day. It dies down a little bit in the afternoon, late in the afternoon, which they'll probably be off the course by then.
Yeah.
But the high is 63, right? So you got windy, rainy, and cold, which,
Yeah.
a lot of guys do not enjoy playing
No,
in
it's a
that weather.
factor. Yeah. So
Saturday, right? Similar story. It's going to be mid 50s in the morning, right? Getting up to low 60s in the afternoon. with 14-mile-an-hour winds and 21-mile-an-hour gusts, right? So it's going to be windy and cold for Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday looks like a much nicer day. It looks overcast, right? But winds are lower, high
Yeah.
of like 7 miles an hour, and in the mid 60s to low 70s. So a nicer day Sunday.
Seems like mainly, like, if anything, Friday is probably the main weather, not concern, but, influence on how these guys could play.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, but Saturday is still windy, right?
Mhm.
So, again, not that it's going to be playing extremely difficult, but it's definitely going to be more difficult to make birdies,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So, there's a few names at the bottom, right, that I do find some interest in. Ryan Gerard has been rounding into form, right? We've talked about him a couple weeks. He's 120 to 1.
Yeah.
Um, Tom Hogue is 120 to 1, right? Again, I don't think these are guys that are going to win, but they are, two guys have taken top 20 a couple times that have worked out
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So, I'll probably be looking at those guys because they are great iron players.
Mhm.
And I think, when you can really strike the golf ball like they do, you can play well in most conditions.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. Hoag's been, I think you've hit him like 4 times now for top 20 at minimum plus 300 in these events. And he keeps getting listed there and he keeps taking off top 20. So, I mean, he's been consistent. Gerard, I've also been on with you a couple of times. And they both just bring very good value because their names, aren't quite as big compared to actually what their game sort of shows.
Yep, absolutely. Siwoo Kim's been playing good golf, right? I mean, he's definitely,
His loss with the like last week. He on Saturday he carried the broom and his blade in the bag during the round.
yeah, it's crazy.
That's like, and he still finished minus 12.
Yeah, these greens, that's probably not where you want to be mentally coming into, pure greens that are going to
But he's
run
striping it. I mean,
13.
if you're doing that and you're minus 12, minus 13, regardless of the course, and you're that bad with the putting, I mean, you're
Yeah,
doing,
you're striping it.
yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so you want to go through some picks?
Yeah, we'll go over some outrights. So I mean, on mine, I'll go over my outright. So I got top of the board starting off with Ludvig. I got him at 16 to 1. Um, I mean, like you said, he has been a bit more inconsistent this year in terms of just like how his game is performing week in, week out. Obviously, he had the win back at the Genesis when they played at Torrey. It doesn't seem like, he's done too much good since then, but when we talked about the course, we talked about how distance could be a really big benefit this week, carrying those bunkers, like giving yourself a bigger fairway to land on, and obviously, a shorter club in coming into these slopey greens where that precision could really matter. So I think that's going to be a big benefit for him this week. And obviously, like I sort of said it, compared to the Masters greens a little bit, and he's putted very well on those for these last 2 years. So I think at 16 to 1, like I said, it's a smaller field. I think it could be a pretty, solid number, even though he hasn't maybe been in the best form. I still definitely could see him competing at a course like this with his game off the tee. So
Yeah.
we got yeah, so Ludvig, and then did you want to add something there, or were you just gonna say yeah?
No, I agree. I can get my first pick right for the
Yeah,
outrights.
go
So,
ahead.
so I got Xander right at my top of the board guy plus 1600. I know it's a guy you like this week as well.
Yeah.
He's finally really rounding into form fully. He's been tee to green solid, right? Where he was not fully where he was at last year, but pretty close, right? And as time has gone, he's been striking it better and better throughout the year. And like you were saying, the last event he played in, he finally gained some strokes around the green, which
Hmm.
is huge, right? I mean, not that he's going to miss a lot of greens this week, but when he does, to be able to get up and down,
Big.
70, 80% of the time rather than 50% of the time, that's how you really get yourself into contention come Sunday.
Yeah.
So Xander, I think it's just a matter of time, plus 1600. He's my favorite this week.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you sort of referenced, I do love that play this week. I think he is rounding into form, like you said, and it's just a matter of time. He's so confident now after knocking off those 2 majors last year. When he does get into contention again, eventually, real contention come Sunday, he's gonna be one of those guys that goes out and gets it rather than fading out of the pack like a lot of these guys do.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so like that, and then my second guy I got this week, I got Hideki. I got him at 35 to 1. And a lot of things I said towards Augusta. He struck it great. It seemed like he was finally finding some form with those. I'm not the most excited that he hasn't played a lot of golf since then. I don't think he's played in a tour event yet, but at the same time, 35 to 1, smaller field. If he can get himself in good position off the tee, we know how good he is with like a sub 150 club in his hand, and it seems like he could have that a lot this week. So at 35 to 1, I love the number, and if he could just find something with the putter somewhat, make a couple more than not even a couple more. He's got to make a lot more, but just simply not lose to the field, maybe just stay neutral or, gain a stroke, whatever it might be. I think he's going to be in a good position come Sunday.
Yeah, no, Hideki is whenever he's feeling good about himself, he's always a play, right? And those guys with the high ceilings are who you want to take outright bets on, right? I
Exactly.
mean, they might come in last or they might be in first, right? I mean, you don't want the guy you know is going to shoot two, three under every day.
Yeah.
Conservative. Hideki is a very aggressive golfer, which
There's plenty of guys that we can get that, we could say I could see him finishing top 10 or top 20 more than Hideki, but there's just Hideki has the ability to win. He might not, show that every week, but when he does show his game, he'll be up there with a chance.
yep. My second guy is Daniel Berger. So he's a guy that right got healthy towards the end of last year, started to play better golf right this year. So actually, U.S. Open last year was his first event back, and he missed like five or six cuts in a row. By the time January rolled around, right since the American Express, he really hasn't finished outside the top 30, right? He came T21, T2, 12, T25, T15, T20, T21, and then tied for third last week at the RBC.
Yeah.
So, he's really rounding into form. He's gained strokes in pretty much every event this year, right? He gained 4.5 strokes, or sorry, 2.58 strokes total at
Mhm.
the RBC Heritage. And that was losing a little bit on the greens, right? He's normally a great putter. So he was really striking the ball well that week. So I got Daniel Berger plus 4,000. He's just so talented. I think it's only a matter of time. And I really do see him getting onto this Ryder Cup team. So we got.
Yeah, it would go a long way towards that for sure. Knocking off that win and really, especially being in the Northeast, I think it also gives it
Yeah.
another up. Obviously it's not a similar course to Bethpage per se, but just in that type of environment, in the sense colder weather, like you said, for some of the week and the weekend as well. So would be a big win for him and his chances. And like he has been playing some pretty solid golf, so we'll definitely see.
Yeah. And he's in a good spot in the rankings. So, I mean, you got to win in a elevated event.
Sort of lock himself in almost.
Yeah, that'd be a big win.
Yeah. All right. So I like that. And then so I have a third guy got a Sep Straka. We talked about him a bit before. I got him at a 45 to 1. And it sort of just goes to everything I was saying before, right? He's been so consistent all year. It seems like every event, even if he doesn't have it one like on a Thursday or Friday, he's bouncing back. He's going low, shooting a sort of get himself back in that, top 20, top 15 position. And we talked about the precision part of things, right? For the week, how slopey these greens are, how precise you have to be coming into these greens. And his accuracy off the tee, he puts himself in position to, set himself up well on the greens by having a 150, 140 shot into a lot of these shorter holes. So I think he can take advantage of that. And at the same time, on the putting side, he's usually pretty good. I've noticed a couple times this year where things maybe can go left or right, but for the most part, when he's on, he's one of the better putters on tour, and if combine all that with how well he's been playing, he should put himself in a pretty good spot if his game shows up.
Yep. No, I like that play 100%. All right, my third pick, Keegan Bradley. So he's a Northeast guy, right? I mean, we don't want to think too far into it. He knows how to golf his ball on bent grass. He also does like windy and cold conditions, right? So I think that Friday, Saturday, him being able to put up a couple rounds in the 60, right, will be key to to getting himself into contention this week.
Yeah,
And again, for him as the captain of the Ryder Cup, but he's still in the prime of his career. I'd
exactly.
really love to see him on that Ryder Cup team. We need guys like him and Berger that show passion, right? That hate to lose.
Mhm.
And I see him flipping around his putting, like we were talking about before. His putting has not been great the last few
Usually a
events.
good putter though, so
He's
it helps.
normally a solid putter, yeah. So around the green has been solid. Approach the green has been solid. Off the tee is always pretty solid, right? So,
And he carries it far.
yeah.
He's not known for the being the longest hitter, but he has that high ball that really does carry, so he can take advantage of that stuff as well.
Yep. So I got Keegan plus 4,500 as my last play.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So we each got I might add one more. I was thinking about Spieth at 25 to 1. I'm gonna think about it a bit more, so I might post it when we, throw up the plays later. But Spieth is definitely attractive simply because, how he's been playing. At a certain point, I think he's really going to get a big win at like maybe a tournament like this. So I might be on him. I don't want to commit to it quite yet, but it's more so just a number being a bit lower than I would like, but I might have to just accept that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then I got a couple top 20 plays. So
Yep.
I got Tom Hoge plus 280, right? He was a little under plus 300 this week.
Yeah.
And then I got Ryan Gerard plus 280. They're pretty similar stories in terms of great ball strikers, right? Hit that tight little draw.
Yeah.
It really is going to come down to the putter more than likely. And just getting up and down a couple times throughout the week, right? Top 20 for either one of them. So one of them hit, right? We're in a good spot there. And then I got Brian Harmon top 10. This is including ties. They don't have a market right now for finishing position without ties. So including ties is plus 410. He's been playing great golf, right? He's been in contention the last few weeks, right? Got a win again. He's a streaky sort of player. When he's playing well, he normally continues that momentum throughout the week or
Yeah.
throughout the season. So I do like him plus 410 top 10.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so you got those two top 20, one top 10, and then I have two top 20s right now. So I have Michael Thorbjornsen at plus 320. And if you've been watching him, he played 3 weeks ago in the alternate event, the Punta Cana, came in second. Played at the Zurich with Carl Phillips, played great. They came in fourth there. Obviously a team event, but still, watching him, he did play well. And then last week, he played pretty well. I think he was top 15, maybe top 10, but he went like 7 under the first day. He had an awful second round, shot 2 over, and then I think played pretty well the rest of the way. And overall, his game's in good form, and he's simply elite off the tee. Like he has complete control over his golf ball, and he's deep. And like we've been saying for a lot of these guys, if you have that control and you can get it over these bunkers, you're gonna give yourself a lot of like solid wedge opportunities. And with Mike, it's just a matter of him, making a couple putts here and there because that seems to be where he's held back a little bit right now, not quite making as many as he needs to, but his ball striking seems like finally back in form. And as we know, you're not winning the PGA Tour U without being an elite talent and having an elite amateur career. And it's just a matter of like maybe these past couple weeks is really like the start of his, run that he's going to make in his pro tour career these days.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of his, right? Like everything you said is true. I mean, he is nuclear off the tee.
Yeah.
He's starting to control his irons better and better.
Yep.
As he continues on in his pro career. Those middle 2 days scare me a little, right? Even though he is a Northeast guy, right? He really hits the ball extremely high,
Yeah.
which in the wind does concern me a little. But again, top 20, you put a good round together Thursday and Sunday and just hold on in the middle of the middle rounds.
Top 20.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he'll be there.
All right. So I like that. And then my one other guy is we got Justin Rose plus 200. And I mean, we talked about Rosie. He's been in good form. Obviously, every big event that he really, plays in, it seems like he's giving himself a chance come Sunday. And at plus 200 for a top 20 in a 70-man field, I think it's a no-brainer, and it's just a great number for the type of player that he is.
Yeah, he's a grinder. I mean, they're finally pricing him better, right? He was getting some crazy odds in the beginning of the year and was playing well, and they still kept his odds, where he seemed like he wouldn't have a chance at all.
Yeah.
I do like that number this week. So then a few guys for Myrtle.
Myrtle.
Yeah, so we got Myrtle this week, alternate event. I completely forgot Truist was an elevated event, right? Until I saw there was two events in the Myrtle Beach class or with the Myrtle. So I do like Toasty again. I do like Damon, both plus 5,000. Two guys in very solid form. Damon did choke away a tournament just a couple short weeks ago, right? That was another secondary event, right? So I could see him, continuing his good play. It's going to be tough to win, right? Just because he's going to have some mental battles to fight. But I got Toasty and Damon plus 5,000. Another name I'm seeing here right now, Davis Riley plus 4,900.
Riley.
is interesting as well.
4,900. I mean, FanDuel never shows a weird number like that pre-week. That's weird. It's
That's
usually
true.
45 or 5. That might be a little glitch in the system there.
Mm,
But I like, I mean, I like all those guys. Obviously, I honestly don't know this course too well. I know Goddard up one here last year. One guy that's honestly, just looking at it, Ryan Fox. It's your guy. He's 40 to 1 this week. Not the best number, but based off how these alternate events usually are, it seems like it's usually a pretty open course, very gettable, a lot of birdies, and he usually does somewhat well in those events, and he was elite on the DP. So I mean, at a certain point, I feel like he's gonna make his mark here. I think I heard on the broadcast a couple weeks back that he moved, like he did the official move to the States, moved his whole family here. So I
I
mean,
did.
he's
Okay.
committed to being, on the tour and having a career here. And obviously, you need to jumpstart that at a certain point. And if that's winning one of these, I definitely wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. So, all right, that's Myrtle, right? That's so it's a decent field, honestly. There's some fun names to watch in those types of events. Usually, it is a pretty packed leaderboard come Sunday. So we got Toasty, Damon, and then we'll throw Fox in as a play together plus 4,000.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So next week, PGA Championship, we got another major coming next week. Quail Hollow, right? As Spieth called it, Rory McIlroy Country Club today. Um, it's gonna be a fun week. I mean, a lot of people don't love that it's at Quail Hollow. I don't know why. I think Quail's a solid golf course, right?
Those make it tough enough. And
Yeah,
PGs are usually low. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean, what is like what does the tour usually finish at Quail?
Rory was like 17 last year, I think, and Xander was at 12 behind him. And that's when Rory went crazy on the back. He shot like 6 or 7 under on the back nine Sunday.
Gotcha. Yeah, Rory's 17, then the next guy, Xander was 12, Ben on 5, and then tied for fourth was 6 under, right? So
It's a
tied
tough course.
16th was 1 under. Yeah, it's definitely a tough course, right? That's got some teeth to it. But there's JT has won his PGA here, his first PGA.
Yeah.
Spieth is looking for the career Grand Slam. So next week will be fun, and we'll have a big episode next week to break it all down.
Yeah, we'll save that all for next week. I agree. We gave a couple little previews, but I mean, I have a pretty good idea of who I'll be taking, but yeah, we'll obviously get into that all on Monday of next week.
All right, good stuff. We will see everyone next week, and hopefully we'll
Another
keep pumping
winner.
out some more content on the course.
Yes.
All right.